You know that feeling when plans get canceled? For some people, it isn't disappointment at all. It is relief. A deep, quiet exhale, like you just narrowly avoided something dangerous. If you know exactly what I'm talking about, keep listening, because what that relief actually means is going to surprise you. Most people assume that someone who rarely leaves the house is just lazy or antisocial, or maybe they have some tragic backstory they're drowning in. And look, sometimes those things are true. But the psychology beneath the surface goes much deeper than most people think to look. That relief, it's trying to tell you something. Right now, your brain is in the business of prediction. Every time you do something and it goes well, your mind logs it. But every time you do something and it goes wrong, embarrassing, painful, overwhelming, it logs that too. And here is where the house comes in. For people who stop leaving, the house stops being just a place. It becomes a guaranteed, confirmed, safe outcome. Your brain has the data. It knows exactly what happens here. Outside, that's unsorted, unprocessed, unpredictable. So your brain instinctively begins to treat your front door the exact same way most of us treat a dark alley. This is the avoidance loop. Psychologists have understood it for decades. Every time you avoid something that provokes anxiety, the anxiety drops, and then your nervous system does something almost cruel. It rewards you for avoiding it. The relief you feel becomes the reinforcement. You're essentially being trained to stay inside. The temporary relief teaches your brain that the threat was real, even if it wasn't. So the person who cancels plans, who lets calls ring out, who orders groceries because even the supermarket feels like too much right now, they're not weak-willed. Their brain is working exactly as designed. It's just pointed in a direction that quietly, slowly shrinks their world. Now, there's a version of this that crosses into clinical territory, agoraphobia. It's when that avoidance becomes so severe that someone cannot leave their home without absolute terror or a panic attack. It is incredibly debilitating. But what is truly fascinating is how many people exist right in the middle. Not clinically agoraphobic, not just introverted. They live somewhere in this quiet gray space where the outside world has just started to feel optional. Let's be clear about something. Some people just genuinely love being home. No underlying wound driving it. The human need for solitude is real. Wanting to stay in over going out is not a personality flaw. But I'm talking about what happens when comfort curdles into a cage. When you can't leave, even when a part of you really wants to. And the modern world has made that incredibly easy. For most of human history, not leaving the house had immediate practical consequences. You needed food. You needed social contact to survive. You needed to physically show up to get paid. Slowly, one by one, those frictions have been removed. Delivery, remote work, FaceTime. Without those frictions, the brain, which was already nudging you toward home, gets to indulge that urge without any obvious cost. Until suddenly, there is one. Japan actually has a word for the far end of this spectrum, Hikikomori. It describes people who isolate in their homes for 6 months or more, completely withdrawn from society. What researchers initially thought was just a cultural phenomenon is now being documented everywhere: the US, Spain, Italy. Wherever researchers look, they find it. And the psychology behind it is fascinating. These aren't people who stopped caring. Usually they care almost too much. Research consistently finds high levels of social anxiety, specifically the fear of being negatively evaluated, which is a heavy, exhausting thing to carry every single day of your life. Many experienced a specific, humiliating event that broke their trust in the world, a public failure, bullying, a relationship that ended badly enough to feel like absolute proof that other people are just a source of pain. And here is what makes it so hard to escape. When you stop leaving, you stop collecting evidence that the outside world is manageable. Your brain never gets to update its information. The fear grows in the vacuum, unchallenged, fed entirely by the fact that you are not out there to contradict it. And the world doesn't make it easy to come back. There's a brutal shame spiral involved that outsiders rarely understand. If you've been inside for 3 months, 6 months, a year, you know people will ask where you've been. You know re-entering means explaining yourself. The gap itself becomes the barrier. The longer you stay, the higher the fence gets. It feels like accumulating social debt. Every missed birthday, every unanswered text piles up until the idea of reconnecting takes more energy than you have left. In the most serious cases, withdrawal isn't laziness, it is protection. It is the only way someone knows how to manage their own fragility. It is a portrait of what pain looks like when it has nowhere left to go. So, where does that leave us? If you recognize yourself in this, even just in a smaller, quieter version, the most important thing to understand is this. Your avoidance is making you feel better in the short term, but it is destroying you in the long term. It is not a moral failing. It is just a neurological mechanism, and it can be interrupted. You do not fix it by forcing yourself out of the house in one dramatic act of willpower. You fix it with gradual exposure, slow, incremental contact with the things your nervous system has flagged as uncomfortable. Steps small enough that the brain can process a new outcome. The front door doesn't have to be conquered. The goal is just for it to become unremarkable again. If you are watching this because someone you love is disappearing from the world, please understand that impatience will not work. Shame definitely won't work. The person who hasn't left the house in 6 months already feels an enormous amount of shame. Adding yours just makes their bedroom feel safer by comparison. What actually helps is connection. Low stakes, consistent, zero pressure connection. Because underneath all the clinical terminology, the person in that house is just human. They're afraid, and they found the one place where they're not. The only question is whether that place stays a refuge or becomes a cage. One last thing. Understanding why your brain does this doesn't automatically make it stop. Knowing the why is the easy part. Knowing what to actually do next is where most people get stuck. So, I have linked a resource in the description and pinned comment specifically for that exact stage. It's a set of simple, structured guides to help you break out of the avoidance loop. No extreme overnight life changes, just small, repeatable steps to help your brain start collecting different evidence again. If this video resonated with you, I know that guide will too.